I'm very excited to share with you this example of classic 19th century design today. This is from the Federal period, or also known as the Regency period. That will depend on the origin of the piece. In Great Britain, it was referred to as Regency. In the States or in America, it was referred to as Federal. This also may look familiar to you from the Federal Revival period of the early 20th century. Any of my refinishers are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. We've done our fair share of what's known as Hepplewhite or Duncan 5 pieces. But this right here is the real deal. This is circa 1800 to 1810. I do believe it's actually from the Regency period because I believe that it was made in Britain. I'm going to bring you in a little closer and show you some of the features that helped us not only to determine the origin, but also the age of this piece. Let me first show you why this is no regular chest of drawers, if I can get it open. It does need some work. As you can see, this has a full, what most people would call secretary desk inside of it. This is actually what you would call a butler's desk. These were used for the head of the household, for the servants in many prominent homes. This is the first indicator that we thought that it may be from Great Britain, because these pieces were primarily used for head valets or valets. The pronunciation depends on where you live. And this was used for them to have a compact piece of furniture where they could still handle the daily household mail, ledgers, just the variety of responsibilities that they had, that they could easily close up and it not be in their way, because we know that they wanted to have everything streamlined to make it as efficient as possible for them. Two key details that I would like to point out on construction, of course, which I think most everyone knows to look at. So this is, not only is it a dovetail, but you see how finely it is made. You'll see that you don't see a scribe line because the English were very precise about finishing off their work. Usually they're going to be more utilitarian if they were made in America. I also want you to note the chamfered bottom. The English had a very skilled labor work, and they were much smoother than what you would see in an American design. American design is usually going to be more utilitarian, and they did not have the availability of a lot of the fine woodworking tools at that time that the English had. So this right here was a huge indicator for me that it may be English. Another key feature on this piece is the lock. So you have a brass lock. You can just tell by looking at it that it has some age to it. And then when you take out the screws, of course, you can tell these are going to be non-machine screws. You can see the irregularity there in the head, as well as the threading. What I want you to pay most attention to are the bolts. This is going to be a 3-bolt locking mechanism. This is not something that you will usually see on an American piece. This is going to be a hallmark of the English design. It provided greater security and quality, and this was definitely going to be something you would expect to see on a butler's desk or a writing desk in a wealthy home of that period. A great detail that you can see here, due to some lovely damage, is the construction method of the structure itself. And you can see those beautiful joints, which is equaling the quality that we see here, which brings me to the veneer. Now, this is very important. If I had to just give you one way to determine the age of a piece, or to at least differentiate between early 19th century and mid to late 19th century, it's going to be the veneer. Now, I did not damage this. This is something I have to repair. But you can see here, this veneer is lifted. This veneer, if you measure it, is 1/16 of an inch. That is hand-cut veneer. Anything that is thinner than 1/16 of an inch on the veneer is going to signify that it has been cut by a machine. There were 2 types of saws that came out in the 19th century for cutting veneer, and Up until that point, everything was done by hand, which was also a technique that was refined by English craftsmen. So this has English wrote all over it. So you can see here, we're actually just over, ignore my nails, we are just over 1/16 of an inch. And it's so beautifully done. Of course, do have to make some repairs, but it's beautifully done. Once the steam-powered engines became available for these machines, around 1820 or so, and after, they were all cut by machine, or for the most part. There were still some craftsmen that carried on the technique of cutting the veneer by hand for quite some time. But all of these things combined, especially with the overall style, let us know that age. And finally, you'll see here we have the traditional oval brass circle, all made of brass, stamped, has this motif in here of a basket with some fruits and different floral designs there. I will have to find a bell for this one that's missing. This was going to be a traditional design feature that you would have seen pulled from inspirations such as Hepplewhite, Sheraton, Duncan Fife, so on and so forth. So after looking at all of the construction methods, the locks, the hardware, the veneer, the overall style, we are confident in saying that this is from the Regency era. I would feel comfortable dating it, especially knowing about the veneer between 1800 and 1810. I do believe that it's made primarily of solid mahogany. And this is a perfect example of how you can see a piece that was in a barn, literally, and know what you're looking at and know if it's worth saving or not. So while some may look at this and think that it's more junk than antique, I can assure you it's worth our time going to pick it up, and I look forward to sharing its transformation with you and showing you what it may have looked like over 200 years ago.